Good morning, students. Welcome to online English classes for class 10. In the last period, we have discussed the nature of African freedom struggle and the way freedom was attained at last in 1994 and the role of Nelson Mandela and others. Today we shall recapitulate all those things and move on to the next part. So, point number 1, Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa, and it happened in 1994, and before that there was white supremacy. Only white people ruled. People from European origin ruled and framed the laws, rules, acts as per their suitability, and the people of South Africa were neglected. Nelson Mandela was born in 1918, jailed in 1960 for 30 long years, and released in 1990. So for 30 years he was imprisoned, and after he was released in 1990, he was showered with a lot of awards and prizes, including the Nobel Prizes and the highest civilian awards of India, Bharat Ratna. Point number 3, inauguration took place on 10th of May 1994, and it was an autumn day in South Hemisphere, that is South Africa. And this chapter is a biography, and which includes the speech on the inauguration day. Now let's see the variations of the first part that we have read. The day was marked by dignitaries from different nations attending the swearing-in or oath-taking or inaugural day. So the day bore a lot of significance for the entire world, and people were invited to attend the ceremony, and other nations were also invited who had sent their dignitaries and became a part or witnessed the event very closely. The oath taking took place at Pretoria Union Building. First deputy president was Thabo Mbeki, and second deputy was F.W. de Klerk. And then Nelson Mandela took the place for upholding the constitution as president of South Africa. So as a system, as a custom, there they have two other deputy presidents along with the president, and they also took the oath. And Thabo Mbeki was an African born, and F.W. de Klerk was the president of the earlier government who had actually joined Nelson Mandela's party, African National Congress, after 1994, and he was given the deputy president post. Now, impressions of the day. People from all sections attended. Common people were allowed to attend. They also took part actively. Everyone was happy, cheerful, and it gave an impression of a rainbow gathering. A rainbow gathering, as I told you, is a kind of gathering by people from all sorts and all strata, and having no any feeling of any kind of differences, for peace and harmony. It is very common in Africa and in American nations. It is still happening in every year, and it gave an impression of a rainbow gathering. That means people sat there in large numbers without any differences between them, among them. And this is also a figurative use, maybe a figurative use, because people wearing different clothes and having different skin colors gathered there. So it was a colorful event. That's why rainbow word has been used, but the actual meaning of rainbow gathering is a gathering where people of all strata gather without any differences, and they enjoy nature to the utmost possible way. Main points of the speech. White supremacy was a human disaster. Mandela has referred to this word, in particular human disasters of many kinds. Some are some are natural disasters, some are man-made disaster, but this one is human disaster, purely a disaster that is made by human being, and the disaster affects the human being, that is apartheid and discrimination. For apartheid, South Africa was an outlaw. The word outlaw has been used. Outlaw means a system in which some international sanctions are restricted against a particular nation for not following some human rights and other things and violating some international rules. That is known as outlaw. So because the white supremacy government didn't follow a lot of things which was recommended by international bodies such as United Nations organizations and other bodies, they were given limited privileges and limited sanctions, that is known as outlaw. That means they were not allowed to take part in such international meetings and congregations. It was a common victory for justice, and Mandela says that the freedom in 1994 was a common victory, and it was for justice, because those people who were earlier discriminated, not given their political and civil right, which was unjust, became justful after 1994. Emancipation, liberty, freedom was achieved at last. So synonymous words. So they got it in 1994. Let's move on to the chapter today. Then Mandela adds, a few moments later we all lifted our eyes. So the inaugural ceremony is going on, as it happens in January 26 or Republic Day. A display of our arms, ammunitions, our brigades, such events are going on there in South Africa also. So they all lifted their eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets. So they became wondered with the display of their jet planes, South African jets, helicopters and troop carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union building. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. So it was a display of their strength, display of their power, display of their demonstration of their precision and military training. It happens everywhere on the Republic Day or the day of their independence, and the same thing is taking place. And freely and fairly elected means earlier it was a one-sided election where only some limited people took part in the election procedure and they voted their own government, and the black people were neglected. But this time it was a free and fair and democratic government. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from day gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue and gold of the new South African flag. So let me show you what happened that day. The Impala jets could be seen in a chevron shape. Chevron means V shape. This shows their pinpointed training and accuracy of their flight skill, and it happens everywhere in India also. You can see on Republic Day, they fly in various shapes, displaying their art and skill, and they also um, take rounds over the parade area, emitting smokes or exhaust gas of different colors, saffron, white, green for India, and that in that fashion in South Africa also they displayed their skills, leaving behind various color smokes which represented the color of South African flag. And this one is the picture of an Impala jet, maybe a newer version, but anyway, Impala jet is a fighter jet. And there the police, the armed forces, they saluted Nelson Mandela, and their chest was bedecked, means decorated with ribbons and medals. And that was the specialty. And what Nelson Mandela here refers is that they saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. And what is special here is that the same police, the same army would have arrested Nelson Mandela when the freedom struggle was going on. But today the same people are saluting Nelson Mandela, and that was the speciality. Now come to the second paragraph. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems. And what was special on that day? That in Africa there used to be two national anthems, and one sung by the white people and another one by the native African people. And the white people actually sang Die Stem, and the black people sang Nkosi Sikelel I Africa. But this day, the vision of Nelson Mandela that the black will also sing the anthem of the white and the white will also sing the anthem of the black comes true. Then that was his vision. And blacks singing Die Stem, the old anthem of Republic, although that day neither group knew the lyrics because they were not accustomed to singing the anthem of the other groups. None of them actually knew the lyrics of the anthem. They only despised means to look down upon, or a hatred of a smaller intensity. So they didn't like the other group's anthem, but today they are singing gently each other's anthem. They would soon know the words by heart, and he expects that after few years or after few days, both the sections will know each other's anthem very well. And let me play the anthems for you. This one is for Nkosi Sikelel, that is the native Africans anthem before Republic. Copied from YouTube. The channel name is given below. And this one is Die Stem, which was actually sung by white people. This one also copied from YouTube. The channel name given beside it. You may listen the song in full. So this was a dream, this was a vision which was fulfilled on that day. Now the next paragraph. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. So this also bears a lot of historical significance, and I had told you in the last lesson in detail, but let me remind you once more that the first settlers of South Africa were not Britons, and they were Dutch and other Europeans, and Britons came later, and for supremacy a fight took place among themselves. At one side there were Britons, that is Britishers, and the other side Europeans, preferably Dutch people, who were helped by African native, and that is known as Anglo-Boer War. This party called themselves as Boer, and in that war of 1899, which went on for more than 1 year, but small skirmishes and face-offs continued till 1910. And in 1910, a ceasefire is signed between the Britishers and the Boer, not to continue the struggle anymore, not the fight anymore, war anymore, and they gave some privileges, or they sanctioned some benefits to the Boers. But what happened actually is that the Boer included the Dutch and other Europeans and the Africans. But after the sanctions were given by Britishers to the Boer or the people of Africa, actually the Dutch took the benefit, the Europeans took the benefit, but the Africans were cheated, betrayed. They were given, and they were not given any special right, any special privileges, and they were still seen or looked down upon by the Europeans and the Britons. So this betrayal actually is of very significant significance in the history of Africa, and that is what Nelson Mandela mentions here, that they patched up their differences. That means the difference between the Britons and other Europeans, they patched up their differences after the 1910 ceasefire. Before Mandela was born in 1918, they actually developed a system and officially announced it in 1948, the system of apartheid. So black people were actually neither given the right to vote nor other civil rights, and the discriminations continue. So this betrayal has been mentioned, that those people who fought against Britishers, they used Africans in the struggle in the Anglo-Boer War, but they duped them, cheated them, and framed a government as per their suitability with white supremacy. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever known. So the apartheid system was actually inhuman and harshest the world had ever known. Now in the last decade of the 20th century, that is after 1990, and my own 8th decade as a man, Mandela had turned more than 80 by 1990. That system had been overturned forever, but the system, the white supremacy rule, the apartheid system had been overturned by this Declaration of Freedom of South Africa, and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples, regardless of the color of their skin. So this new government, African National Congress, led by Nelson Mandela, actually discriminated nobody, particularly on the basis of their color of their skin. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people. And now he remembers those people who sacrificed their life, became martyrs in the struggle for independence. People whose suffering and courage can never be counted on or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. So Nelson Mandela says that he is sum total of the freedom fighters who actually died and couldn't see the independence. That is, gone before means died before the independence. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. So that long and noble line means that lineage or the struggle or the stretch of the fight ended, but the fight still begins with Nelson Mandela with a new view, new vision to continue the spirit of the fight, to continue the vision and dream of the people who died. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. And Mandela also refers that he was not able to thank them because he was already in jail, and so he didn't meet all of them while in jail, and they were also not able to see what their struggle has brought about, or wrought means here in old fashion, achieved. So they died before they could see the independence. And it happens in every struggle for independence. Some people lay their lives, but they don't enjoy or cannot enjoy the actual freedom. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. So the wound the white people have inflicted upon the blacks would continue to hurt the coming generation for years. But the decades of oppression and the brutality means quality of animals, oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced so this kind of oppression had produced a lot many the Oliver Tambos, the Walters Sisolos, the Chip Luthulis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobuquets of our time. The has been used before names because Mandela is not referring to the people named here. That means there are so many like them, so many people with the quality of Oliver Tambos, so many Walter Sisolos, so many Chip Luthulis. So he remembers this great man and so many like them who actually had a struggle for their independence. So he is not naming all by name, but he is naming that those who possess the qualities of these men are actually remarkable, and that's why the here is not just written before name, because the names are in plural, and here it means it has been compared. That is like we call Kalidasa was the Shakespeare of India. So Kalidasa was not the Shakespeare. That means he has been compared. So in some cases, the is used before names, when it signifies a different thing. So here the Oliver Tambus means people like Oliver Tambus. The Walter Sisulus means all those people like Walter Sisulus, and likewise a man of such extraordinary, you can see the pictures here, man of such extraordinary courage, wisdom and generosity that their like may never be known again. So those people were special with their individual qualities, and it is very difficult to find people like them. It is very difficult to replace them. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. And he also says that to find such people, such visionary, such knowledgeous people with having such qualities is not very easy to find during peacetime. Such oppression, such torture can create such kind of personalities. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, and really South Africa is one of the highest producer of gold and diamonds. So he says that their nation, South Africa, is actually abound with precious minerals and gems. But I have always known that the greatest wealth is its people. But Mandela says the greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. You can underline these lines. So real wealth are the people, even they are precious than purest diamonds. Come to the next paragraph. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. So Mandela here mentions those friends as comrade. Comrade is actually a term generally used by communist people or socialist people who become a part of a revolution and call themselves as comrades or friends. And let me tell you that in the struggle for African independence, African Communist Party was also a part, and maybe the leaders he has mentioned here, some or all, may be from communist background, and the word comrade has been used in that sense. I'm not sure, but comrades in general, in general sense, used for all those who accompany one in a fighting or a struggle or revolution, or the heads or chiefs of communist revolutions. In general meaning, it means a friend who helps someone in a struggle. So in these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage, the time and again I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. So here also he mentions not only the freedom fighters, but also he has seen people who actually stood up even when they were attacked and tortured without breaking, and showing a strength and resilience. Resilience is the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effect. The last one, recover from its effect. The word was aptly used when last year Odisha was devastated with the cyclone, and a lot of people were affected. United Nations has given a citation for Odisha that the resilience of the people of Odisha is great, or something like that. Resilience means they are affected again and again by cyclone, but they very soon stand up against it and make their living normal. That is the resilience. That means affected again and again, they face the devastation again and again, but still they stand up. That is resilience. That defies means cheats. the imagination, that there is a kind of resilience Mandela had seen in their own people that is beyond imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. A quotation, a well-known quotation. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. This is also part of the same quotation. So being afraid or is winning over fear is not courage. Come to the next paragraph. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. This is also a famous quote, very famous quote. So nobody is actually born with the feeling or with the discrimination of caste, creed, religion, ethnicity. Man is born with the same innocence as other animals who actually know no difference among themselves. But after he is trained, after he attends school, or after the other people of the society affect him, he is polluted, his mind is polluted, he is corrupted, and he learns a lot of things which is vile against the innocence of humanity. In this regard, I remember the famous quote of Rousseau, who says, "Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chain." So man is born free. There is no social contact. Nobody controls him. He is independent, but after he lives in the society, he is controlled by others, and an invisible chain binds him because of this mislearning. So to become a natural, innocent man, one has to unlearn all these vile things taught by the society, taught by the schooling, and taught by others. And that has the significance. And the lines written here in the line highlighted here in red has been very wrongly explained by some people, and you should understand the real meaning in the same context. People must learn to hate. If you read these phrases in isolation, there is a chance that you get confused. People must learn to hate. It is not people should learn to hate, or people must acquire this quality of hating others. No. People must learn to hate, and learning means a deliberate attempt, a conscious effort to acquire or gain some kind of knowledge. So unless you make effort to gain something, you cannot say that you have learned something. So learning is a conscious effort where you put forth that effort to gain something. We come to school and we learn something because we are being taught here by teachers and other people, other faculty members, and we learn, and the learning process completes. But acquisition is something that comes naturally. So learning is a conscious effort, while acquisition is an effort which requires no conscious effort or no formal setup, that happens naturally. For example, you learn English or you learn Sanskrit, but you don't need to learn your mother tongue. It naturally occurs to you or happens to you that you speak the language fluently without attending any school or without reading some books of grammar. So here mother tongue is acquisition, whereas learning English or Sanskrit are not acquisition, because you have made conscious effort to be acquainted with the alphabets and the grammatical structure of those languages. So here also hate is learned. Hate has to be learned. Unless someone teaches you whom to hate and what to hate, you don't actually know all these things. But love is very instinctual, very natural to everyone. Even animals are shown, animals are seen to love uh, other animals of the same species or different species. But human being, though biologically we all are same, we share the same blood, same bones, same flesh, and when power goes up or light goes up, we all are same. Still, we hate other, we despise other. That is something which is not seen among animals, and animals, I think, are more natural in comparison to human being. So love comes naturally, it is instinctual, but hate is not. Hate has to be learned, and that is what Mandela writes like a philosopher here. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So if they can learn to hate a negative thing, a difficult thing, a complicated, intricate, complicated thing, love must come to them very naturally and can easily be taught. You love someone, and you get love in return. Even in the grimmest times in prison, he gives an example from his own life. When my comrades and I were pushed to our limits means were given the highest kind of torture and were subjugated to the highest limit, I would see a glimmer, a light, a spark of humanity in one of the guards. Even those guards were whites had subjugated Mandela and his comrades. Still, one of the guards showed a sign of love for Mandela. I remember such an event from the life of Mahatma Gandhi while he was in jail in South Africa. He was put in jail, and in the jail there was the jail superintendent known as J.C. Smoot, and Mahatma Gandhi was such a character that in the jail he had actually made a pair of sandal for J.C. Smoot, and when he was released, Mahatma Gandhi had gifted the pair of sandal to J.C. Smoot, and J.C. Smoot had actually mentioned this after Mahatma Gandhi's death in a book released on his memory. So that was the character. Okay, so Mandela could see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. So man's goodness is something that cannot be hidden for long. It is like the sun, which can be covered by the cloud for a few seconds or a few minutes or a few days, but ultimately the sun wins. Likewise, the goodness, the kindness of human being is eternal and can be hidden but never extinguished. The flame, the fire cannot be extinguished or put out. So this is the end part. You try the oral comprehension check questions in your classwork copy. So thank you for today.